Imagine waking up one morning and realizing you're not in control of your own body anymore. You're moving, you're climbing, but you didn't decide any of it. Something else did. Something that's been growing inside your brain. Now, here's the fun part. This isn't science fiction. This isn't a horror movie. This is Tuesday. For millions of insects across the planet, meet Cordyceps, a genus of parasitic fungi with roughly 400 known species, each one perfectly evolved to hijack, puppeteer, and ultimately kill its host. Elegantly, efficiently, almost lovingly, if you're into that sort of thing. And if you've ever watched The Last of Us and thought, thank God that's not real, I have some mildly unsettling news for you. Strap in. This is the real zombie apocalypse, and it's been running for 48 million years. So, what exactly is Cordyceps? In the most clinical terms possible, it's a parasitic fungus. In more accurate terms, it is nature's most sophisticated biological horror show. Cordyceps belongs to the fungal kingdom. And before you say "you mushrooms," understand that the fungal kingdom is one of the most ancient, adaptive, and frankly unsettling branches of life on Earth. Fungi are not plants. They're not animals. They're something older. Something that's been perfecting its craft since before the dinosaurs showed up to mess everything up. Cordyceps specifically has co-evolved alongside its insect hosts for tens of millions of years. And the relationship it's built. Not a partnership. Not a friendship. It's a hostile takeover. A one-sided merger where the fungus gets everything and the host gets a very dramatic death. Here's what makes Cordyceps genuinely remarkable. There's not just one. There are over 400 described species of Cordyceps, and here's the wild part, most of them are specialists. One species targets ants, another targets beetles, one goes after caterpillars, one specifically hunts moths. Some are so specialized they will infect only one species of insect in one specific region during one specific life stage. This is not a generalist opportunist. This is a sniper with 400 different barrels. Let's talk about how Cordyceps actually does this, because the mechanism is simultaneously elegant and deeply disturbing, which is kind of Cordyceps' whole brand. It starts with spores, tiny, airborne, microscopic. An ant walks through infected terrain, maybe steps over a dying fungal host, and picks up spores on its exoskeleton. The ant doesn't know this. The colony doesn't know this. Life goes on. But the spores do know, and they get to work. The fungus penetrates the ant's cuticle, that's the hard outer shell, and begins to grow inside the body cavity. It threads hyphae, those thin fungal filaments, through the ant's internal systems. And at some point, through a mechanism that scientists are still actively studying and quietly losing sleep over, the fungus begins to influence the ant's behavior. Here's where it gets philosophically interesting. And by interesting, I mean profoundly creepy. The infected ant abandons its colony. It leaves its home, its sisters, the entire structured world it was born into. It starts climbing upward, always upward, onto a plant stem or leaf. And at a very specific height, at a very specific time of day, it bites down onto a vein of a leaf with what researchers describe as a death grip. Then it dies. Right there, clamped to that spot. And from its head, Cordyceps erupts, literally erupts, growing a long fruiting body called a stroma, straight out of the ant's corpse. Then it rains spores down on the forest floor below, right where other ants will walk. The whole process, from infection to detonation, is so optimized it borders on diabolical engineering, and no one designed it. Evolution just arrived here. Now the burning question everyone asks, does Cordyceps actually infect the brain? Here's the twist, and it's a good one. For a long time, scientists assumed yes. Obviously, the brain was being taken over. How else would you explain the behavior? But recent research published in the journal PNAS actually found something more unsettling. Cordyceps largely avoids the brain. The fungal cells are found throughout the ant's body, in the muscles, the glands, the gut. But the brain tissue itself remains relatively intact, which means the ant might still be in there, aware, watching, just unable to stop what's happening to its own body. If that doesn't keep you up at night, I genuinely respect your nervous system. But let's step back for a second. Because Cordyceps isn't just the universe's most overachieving horror villain. It actually plays a critical role in forest ecosystems. By controlling insect populations, particularly ants, Cordyceps acts as a kind of biological regulator. Without it, certain ant species could grow unchecked and devastate the forest understory they live in. The fungus keeps populations in balance. It's the nightmare you didn't know your ecosystem needed. It also breaks down organic matter as it consumes its host, returning nutrients to the soil. So, in a deeply roundabout way, Cordyceps is out here doing composting. Dramatic, theatrical, parasitic composting, but composting nonetheless. Of course, we have to talk about The Last of Us. When the show and the game before it introduced a Cordyceps-based apocalypse, mycologists everywhere had a moment, because while the human infection is fiction, Cordyceps cannot infect mammals. Our body temperature is too hostile for the fungus. The underlying biology is completely real. Neil Druckmann, the game's creator, has said the concept came directly from a BBC documentary on Cordyceps. He watched footage of a zombie ant staggering through the forest with a fungus erupting from its head and thought, what if it evolved to affect humans? Bold, creative choice. Perfectly reasonable nightmare. Science says we're safe. Science also said a lot of things before 2020, so here's the part that makes the story genuinely strange in a different direction. Humans have been using Cordyceps for centuries. In traditional Chinese medicine, Ophiocordyceps sinensis, the caterpillar fungus, has been considered one of the most prized medicinal substances in existence. It's been used for fatigue, kidney disorders, and as a general tonic for vitality. At its peak, it sold for more than its weight in gold, literally. Per gram, certain grades of Cordyceps were worth 3 times the price of gold. So, to recap, a fungus that hijacks the nervous systems of insects, puppeteers them to their death, and explodes out of their skulls is also a wellness supplement that wealthy people pay extraordinary amounts for. Humans are a fascinating species. Modern research has started catching up to the traditional claims, and the results are genuinely interesting. Studies have explored Cordyceps for potential anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and immune-modulating properties. Athletes have used Cordyceps supplements, claiming improvements in oxygen utilization and endurance. Whether those claims hold up under rigorous clinical scrutiny is still an active area of research. But the fact that a mind-controlling zombie fungus might also be good for your VO2 max is the kind of sentence that really makes you appreciate how weird this planet is. So, here's where we land. Cordyceps has existed for at least 48 million years. It has evolved in parallel across hundreds of species. It has perfected, and without a brain, without intention, without any kind of plan, one of the most sophisticated behavior manipulation systems in the known biological world. It doesn't have goals. It doesn't have malice. It simply exists. It grows, and it does what it was shaped to do with a ruthless elegance that no engineer has ever replicated. And somewhere in a tropical forest right now, an ant is climbing. It doesn't know why, it just climbs. And there's a quiet kind of horror in that, and then maybe a quiet kind of beauty too, if you're willing to look at it long enough. Nature doesn't care about your comfort, but it is, in its own twisted way, endlessly creative. Thanks for watching. If you found this fascinating, or if you're now slightly more afraid of forests, hit subscribe. New videos drop every week, and I promise they'll all make you question something you thought you understood. Stay curious, stay safe, and maybe check your shoes before you go outside. If this one got you, wait until you hear what Ophiocordyceps unilateralis does to ants in the Amazon. That's a whole other episode.